news, ladies and gentlemen. We have some good news for once. It appears that Tufts University student Rumeysa Ozturk has been officially released from ICE custody. She is not going to be deported. This is big news. And what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that the judge who did this ruling, he found that there was no reason that Rumeysa should have been captured by ICE to begin with. Let's go ahead and get started with that breaking news. Again, it's a local story for those of us here in Massachusetts, but it has made national news. Let's get into this clip here.
Our team here at NBC Boston, we have been continuing to follow this breaking news for you here. This was the moment Tufts graduate Rumeysa Ozturk was released from ICE custody in Louisiana this evening. Now, you saw this video first on the NBC 10 Boston News at 6. We brought it to you tonight as breaking news. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Colton Bradford.
And I'm Priscilla Casper. Our immigration reporter, Oscar Margain, was the only Boston TV journalist there as she walked out. He has more on her first words after getting released.
Rumeysa, we love you!
These were the first moments of freedom for Rumeysa Ozturk.
Rumeysa, you're finally free. How do you feel?
After spending...
Just think about this for a second, guys. This woman has been detained for weeks. It's been a while now. And from what I understand, the treatment that she experienced in the facility, it appears that she has asthma. And so she's obviously, with asthma, it's not just, you may have difficulty breathing. There are certain conditions that can exacerbate that. Like, so for example, if you are under high stress, anxiety can make asthma worse. So it's obvious that's what she was going through there. But the reality is she should have never been detained in the first place. I cannot say this more than enough, you guys. Like, this is very scary. What has been happening in the United States. Again, we have entered a new era of McCarthyism. A repeat here, but this time the attack is on those who are pro-Palestinian protesters, and they've been mainly targeting those students. And I've been sounding the alarm about this for quite some time.
More than 6 weeks at the ICE processing center in Basile, Louisiana.
Thank you so much for all the support and love. I am a little bit tired, so I will take some rest, but I really appreciate you being here.
Free Rumeysa now!
1,400 miles away in Vermont. Her supporters rallied outside the federal courthouse hours earlier. The judge there concluded Rumeysa's free speech was violated, her detention harmful to her health, and her release not a threat to the public.
Not a threat to the public and in violation of her free speech rights. So to all of you that support free speech, you should 100% support the release of Rumeysa. You should be against ICE detaining people because they spoke out against the state of Israel. You should be against ICE detaining people because they wrote an op-ed in a school paper. And this is not about which team you're on at this point. This is not about if you're a Republican or a Democrat. This is a threat to free speech rights. And if you are a free speech absolutist, which I'm starting to see some of the people who said they were or not, when it comes to Israel, you should not support what happened to Rumeysa. She should have never been detained. Imagine going after a student for an article that they wrote in a school newspaper. What are we doing? We cannot go backwards. We should be progressing. We should be moving forward. And this era, and I call it again, the new era of McCarthyism, where you're just pulling people off of the street, throwing them into ICE vans because they wrote an article or because they criticize Israel. Why all this push for a country that is committing a genocide? Think about this for a second. You know, the politicians are captured by corporate money, but they're also captured by AIPAC and CUFI, the lobby interest groups. You have politicians that are seeking to fulfill some type of oath or promise to Israel, a country that is committing a genocide. There's no reason why this should be applauded. I don't give a damn who you vote for. This should not be applauded at all. At all. Should have never happened. And this should be an embarrassment. This should be an embarrassment for Marco Rubio, who claimed that she did such bad things, which I told you back then was a lie. Craziness.
Very strong message it sends to people who are watching that you can be punished by your speech. And what we heard from the court today was confirmation that that is not what we do in this country.
It was in late March that the Tufts University student was detained by ICE agents near her home in Somerville. The State Department canceled her student visa days prior for allegedly supporting Hamas, a designated terror group. The Vermont judge said the government failed to prove that, pointing only to an op-ed Rumeysa co-wrote in the school paper last year against the war in Gaza.
Pause. And I don't call it a war. I call it a genocide. So again, op-ed, try again, President Kumar, renewing calls for Tufts to adopt March 4th TCU Senate resolutions, right? So this is the op-ed that she wrote. And if you look closely here, you'll see other people wrote this op-ed as well, not just her. So you see that as well. There's Fatima, there's Genesis, etc. The reality is, again, Marco Rubio lied. I told you early on that he was lying, and they were trying to do this to invoke fear in the students, to try to get the students to stop protesting. That's not happening. I just covered the protests that were happening at Columbia University the other day. Like, that's what this was all about, to make you afraid to criticize Israel. This is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, it is some type of McCarthyism. I do not support it. And if you are a free speech absolutist, you should not support it either. So Marco Rubio looks really foolish right now. Really foolish. And I really don't see how anybody can defend him at this point in time. I don't see it, unless you're just being a partisan loyalist, which is what I always warn about. This is wrong. It shouldn't have happened. And it is a stain on the Trump administration.
The war in Gaza.
Lower level judges should not be dictating the foreign policy of the United States.
Visas provided to foreign students to live and study in the United States are a privilege, not a right, said the Department of Homeland Security, adding it will continue to fight for the arrest, detention, and removal of aliens who have no right to be in this country.
That there's hope, that we need to just keep fighting for upholding our constitutional rights. The Constitution doesn't just apply sometimes or to some people. It's for everyone.
And Rumeysa's lawyers criticized her treatment while at the ICE processing center. Geo Group, which is contracted by the government, says that it abides by federal regulations and calls these accusations politically motivated. Now, Rumeysa said that once she gets to Massachusetts, she's going to be moving into Tufts University provided housing while she fights her deportation case from Vermont. Reporting in Basile, Louisiana, Oscar Margain, NBC 10 Boston.
Our team here at NBC.
Yeah. Great news. Again, good news. It should have never happened. Like I said, the judge couldn't find any reason to keep her, which means she should have never been detained in the first place. You're going to see a close up here of her exit as well. This made the rounds on Twitter.
Rumeysa, we love you!
Thank you so much for all the support on love. I am a little bit tired, so I will take some rest, but I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for all the support on love. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Safe travels home.
Yeah. She's obviously happy to be out there. She had supporters there, to congratulate her. Again, I can only imagine the type of trauma that this has made her feel, and the type of trauma that will stay with her. Like, trauma doesn't just disappear overnight. Now, what was really interesting as well is that her legal team also held a conference here outside. And I want you to hear what her legal team had to say. This is the part I think that's very damning.
What we have been saying for weeks and what courts have continued to repeat up and down through the litigation of this case thus far, there's absolutely no evidence that justifies detaining Ms. Ozturk for a single day, let alone the 6.5 weeks that she has been detained because she wrote a single op-ed in her student newspaper exercising her First Amendment right to express an opinion. What the court said today was that she had satisfied her burden She'd established that she had what he called very significant First Amendment and Fifth Amendment due process claims, which will be litigated during her habeas petition hearing before this court. And in the interim, she will be released on bail immediately from Louisiana.
So as I said, her First Amendment and according to her legal team, her Fifth Amendment rights were violated. Yes, people do have rights. And it's just, you just can't go after people to protect Israel. And everybody should be asking this question, by the way. Why is it that these politicians are so willing to go after people here in this country in order to protect Israel? This is not about U.S. interests. I want to be very clear about that. This is not about protecting the United States. This is about protecting Israel. That is not America first. That is Israel first. And that's what we've been seeing left and right. A lot of these issues have been a distraction. And I told you guys before, there has been no mass deportation under Donald Trump thus far. The numbers do not depict that at all. What you have seen have been controversial detainees and controversial deportations. That's what you've seen. That has really taken the news, just like Rumeysa's story. But there has been no mass deportation under Donald Trump. Donald Trump has even given a pass to the agricultural workers and said he's not going to deport them. So the reality is, guys, Donald Trump sold you, whoever voted for him, a bag of goods that is not happening, has not happened. If you look at the numbers, what you see is that Joe Biden and Barack Obama have deported more people than Donald Trump did. And that also goes back to Trump's 2016 presidential administration. This is all a game. And a lot of people are being fooled. And so you think there's a lot that's happening because you have cases like Rumeysa's that has made it to mainstream media. So you think there's a big shakedown going on. But the reality is there has been no mass deportation. They are trying to deport people like Rumeysa, who's a student who co-authored, as I showed you, co-authored an article in Tufts University newspaper. Rumeysa was dragged off the street right in Somerville. I used to live in Somerville. I know exactly where she was pulled. This is insane. But it's done to make you want to live in fear, to make you feel as though if you are to criticize Israel, it could be you. Or they could throw you in jail. They just tried to push through a bill through Congress that wanted to criminalize people boycotting Israel. Nothing so far. None of these things are America first. They are Israel first. So Donald Trump sold people a bag of goods, just like he did when he ran his first term, and he did it again this time. Let's continue with the legal team.
One of the dangers of what we are seeing in the government's behavior in this case is the very strong message it sends to people who are watching that you can be punished by your speech. And what we heard from the court today was confirmation that that is not what we do in this country. That's right. That the First Amendment protects your right to speak. It protects your ability to remain at liberty and free. And Ms. Ozturk is going to be walking out of the Louisiana Detention Center today with another one of our co-counsel so that she can come home, she can come back to her community, she can come back to Somerville, she can come back to her academics, and she can continue the life that she should be able to live.
She is free! She is free! She is free! She is free!
And I want to add a little tidbit here as well about Somerville. Somerville is very diverse. Again, like I said, I lived in Somerville for 5 years. Very diverse. I mean, you have some of everybody there. It's also pretty, out of all the places I've lived in the Boston area, Somerville's pretty welcoming. You know, I mean, it's a little bit more on the, I would say a little bit more on the progressive side, but it's open, it's welcoming. And for that to happen on the streets of Somerville, it's scary. It's scary. I always say Somerville has become like the new Cambridge. Cambridge used to be that way. Cambridge has become kind of hoity-toity, very expensive. But Somerville, yeah, it is a very welcoming place. And to see ICE agents go down the street and to drag a student off the street in Somerville is very shocking to the community, to a lot of people. They were trying to make an example out of Rumeysa. That's what this really was about. Let's find someone we can make an example out of so the students get the message and they stop protesting against Israel and stop criticizing Israel. You don't see the US government do this for any other country. And I sincerely hope that more Americans would push back on that. I don't care what political ideology that you have. You need to push back on this government trying to make Israel first and priority. Everyone should be doing that. But the good news is Rumeysa is free, thank goodness. And the judge found there was no reason that she should have been detained. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.